All right, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Mat. It's April 18th. It's a Monday, so we must be looking at Monday Night Raw tonight for the WWE. Before we get into everything that happened tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about Alexa Bliss. Fightful was told by talent, creative, and higher-ups at WWE that they had known Alexa Bliss had voiced her displeasure in the days following the Elimination Chamber about her creative direction or lack thereof. Despite her not appearing on the WrestleMania card, creative was told that she was willing to work, and there were pitches to involve her in the Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair match. They were all quickly shot down. We weren't able to confirm if those pitches came from Bliss or someone within creative. By the end of February, it was pretty well determined internally that Bliss would not be featured on WrestleMania 38. Those that we spoke to say that the priority of booking Bliss shifted significantly after the vignettes had done airing. Talent and creative were told that Bliss was very transparent about frustration that nothing of substance had been booked after being out of action for about a half a year. Talent that we heard from said there was also discussion backstage that Alexa Bliss had voiced that directly to Mr. McMahon himself. She is still listed as the number 2 babyface for WWE Raw on the internal depth chart as of last week. We have not been informed on any imminent plans for Bliss's return, and she is currently on her honeymoon, end quote. So that's the end of the article by Fightful. They're basically trying to say here that Bliss is frustrated with her creative direction, but I call bullshit here, okay? Because there's two sides of this story. Alexa Bliss got involved in the Bray Wyatt storyline. She has the Lily doll, the number 1 selling piece of merchandise they have. She has to be happy with that. She got involved in the vignettes to get out of the character that she was in before, that she agreed to be in, and other people who were given television time, like Sami Zayn, like Kevin Owens, like Butch, all hit their television time out of the park, and she's sitting here taking up television time on vignettes that she's not happy to be in because of the very creative that she agreed with to be a part of to begin with The Fiend and Bray Wyatt. And now she's shitting on the WWE creative when part of it is her fault. Part of it is Alexa Bliss being hurt for a while. Part of it is Alexa Bliss getting married right after WrestleMania and having a honeymoon, so why the hell would you book her in anything? Because she's not going to be around. Part of it is that she didn't have a great showing at the Elimination Chamber. And part of it is obviously that she's not making the most of what they're giving her. People that make the most of what they're giving are going to thrive in the WWE. And listen, I love Alexa Bliss. I love Alexa Bliss as much as the next guy. I want to see Alexa Bliss back in the ring. But this bullshit where it's all WWE's creative's fault for everything is totally out of line. Part of this is Bliss's fault as well. But like I said, we need to see Bliss back because she's the number 2 babyface on Raw, according to their internal depth chart. So they better have plans for her when she gets back from her honeymoon, which I'm sure they do. So let's all calm down with Alexa Bliss. Let's not all feel sorry for Alexa Bliss and shit all over WWE creative because it's totally unnecessary. Got in a fucking Twitter argument with somebody today who's trying to defend this article and trying to defend Alexa Bliss, and I'm not even trying to come out Alexa Bliss. I'm just trying to say that there's two sides to every story, and everybody needs to calm down. And hit a blind tag, waits around for a minute, then she holds Naomi on the ropes so Liv can hit a power bomb. Rhea comes in for a riptide, gets a near fall, but it's broken up by Sasha Banks, who was fighting away from Liv, and I thought this was about to be over here because it was teased really well that Liv had Sasha all tied up. Naomi eventually hits a big kick to Rhea Ripley once everything clears up, followed by an assisted code-breaker and a sunset flip by Sasha for the 1-2-3 as the champions retain. Champions leave the ring. Then the camera focuses on Rhea Ripley in the ring. Ripley looks upset. Morgan starts to explain herself. They start to argue with each other. Liv then grabs Rhea. They try to talk. Liv then walks away. Rhea attacks her from behind. Riptides her, slams her. And looks like Rhea has turned heel here. No vampires, no lights yet. Happy about that. Happy to see Ripley turn heel so we can see her challenge Bianca Belair at some point. Maybe even at Backlash, because we now know that Sonya Deville's match is going to be happening next week. And we will get to that next. Now we have Sonya Deville coming out, stumbling all over her words. She can't say WWE. She can't say Bianca Belair correctly. She says she was forced into her position and made the most of her opportunity to lead. And when she saw the opportunity to be in the ring with Bianca, she took that too. She called Bianca the B-E-S-T. The crowd started wanting her. I don't like how these fans are doing this to people during their promos. She says it's not personal, it's business. And then we hear Bianca's music. She enters. Sonya says right now she's still an official and Bianca cannot touch her. Bianca takes the mic and says, let's have the match right now. Sonya then says she didn't wait to have her opportunity at a rusted-out suburb like Buffalo. That's real nice to the fans. She says, how about next week in your hometown, Knoxville, Tennessee? So then Bianca picks her up, teases the KOD, throws Sonya down. This leads to a backstage segment. Sonya complaining to Pierce about how Bianca needs to be disciplined for this. He says that she's going to be fine. Bianca then walks up to pay her fine. Sonya thinks it's a big fine. It ends up being $1. And Pierce also alludes to the fact that Sonya is being looked at by the higher-ups for disciplinary action for her conduct. Moving on, we have Veer Mahan come out for a squash match. This one ended very fast, about 2 minutes after a sidewalk slam, $1 million forearm clothesline. Then he jumped onto his back and applied the cervical clutch again. The guy taps out immediately, and Veer continues to sit, make even more grunting animal noises. This guy ends up getting gurneyed out just like Dom did. I don't understand this shit. I don't understand the character, the fucking trope. It's fucking old school. I don't understand why you would squash Dominic last week and then squash a fucking jobber this week. I don't know where Rey Mysterio was, so that probably has something to do with it. But the problem is, there's no fucking story here. There's just a guy coming out and beating the hell out of people, making all kinds of ridiculous fucking noises, and sending them to the hospital. And I want to know who the babyface is that's going to take him down. Right now, Lashley's tied up with Omos, which I think is a fucking waste of time. We can see that by the fact that next week he's going to be tied up in a goddamn arm wrestling competition instead of wrestling, which might have something to do with the fact that he's still a little bit injured, but it might have more to do with the fact that they don't want to see Omos in the damn ring for a while. I don't think that Lashley needs to be messing with Omos and MVP when he could crush somebody like Veer. Who are they going to feed him to? And after that, what the fuck are they going to do with him if all he does and all he's good for is to come out here and beat the hell out of people, make noises to the point where people go to the hospital? I mean, is he going to challenge for a championship? Because he should. Doesn't seem like anybody can stop him. But what's going to happen is a babyface is going to crush him, and they're going to have nothing to do. I don't see Cody being the man. I see it more being Lashley, but I don't see when the hell they're going to do it. And I really fear that this is going to go on for weeks before they find somebody to take him out. Moving on. Kevin Owens hosts the KO show next with Ezekiel. But before I get into that, I listened to the McAfee show today. He had Ezekiel on for a minute. They were asking him why they never saw him at school because they went to school with Elias. He says he was a little bit younger and was in middle school when they were all in high school together. He also said it's like Elias to disappear. Now, McAfee and his boys are all laughing the whole time. Ezekiel says he has his first match tonight. McAfee asks him how he is in the ring. He says, well, I'm a lot like Elias. I'm explosive and I got some skills, and Pat and his crew are laughing. So we're going to see Ezekiel in his first match, obviously, and they're using the McAfee show as a way to develop this character somehow with the public. So anyway, we get to the KO show. Owens says he despises liars and that we have a new guy calling himself Ezekiel as Elias's little brother, and he is there to tell everyone that man is actually Elias, not Ezekiel, and he wants to expose Ezekiel with a lie detector test. He said he would do it himself normally, but he decided he would find the smartest guy he could, and it's Chad Gable. So Chad Gable's in the ring with glasses, looking like a nerd. It's pretty funny. I like the involvement here at Gable. We end up having Ezekiel enter. KO welcomes him. He welcomes him as Elias. Ezekiel says, I'm not Elias. Kevin Owens then says, no, you are not. Just admit it. Eventually, Kevin says, let's start the lie detector test, and Gable tries to set a baseline, but says Buffalo is too loud and asks everyone to shoosh. He asks, is the sky blue? The answer is yes. He asks, is it Monday? The answer is no. Kevin calls Ezekiel a liar, but Gable says he told Ezekiel to lie for the second question. Gable then asks if Gable Stevenson is a spoiled brat, and he starts spazzing out about the WrestleMania incident. KO calms him down. That was actually pretty funny too. Then he asks Ezekiel if his real name is in fact Ezekiel. Ezekiel says yes, and Gable says he's telling the truth. KO and Gable argue about it for a minute. He says ask him something else. He says, is Elias your older brother? Again, Ezekiel says yes. Gable says you're not lying. KO says, is your real name Elias? Ezekiel says no. This turns out to be true as well. Gable says he is a man of academic integrity and he wouldn't lie. KO gets pissed, says he isn't paying him, and Ezekiel says he has had enough and isn't playing Law and Order and being called a liar by the biggest liar in the WWE. Ezekiel says he is excited to have his first match tonight. KO then says, go ahead, have your match. He wants Ezekiel to admit he is Elias or else. Ezekiel then says, or else what? Kevin looks at him for a minute, and then he walks away. As Ezekiel is watching Kevin Owens walk away from him, he then gets hit with a double axe handle from behind by Gable, and we get the Ezekiel and Gable match after the commercial break. Ezekiel starts out in control early with some chops in the corner, but Gable takes control with the dragon screw to the right leg and continues to beat the hell out of Ezekiel's leg. Gable hits a beautiful Northern Light suplex for 2, and continues to work on the same leg. Nice technical work here by Gable. They clearly didn't have much of a match laid out, so they kind of caught it on the spot. Gable was eventually sent over the top rope as Ezekiel kicks out of a leg lock. He rebounds with a lariat and a boot to Gable. Then he reverse drop kicks him out of the corner. Gable then counters and hits an exploder suplex and goes up top for a moonsault. He soars beautifully through the air, but runs right into a raised foot of Ezekiel, and then Ezekiel hits him with a big spinning spine buster. Ezekiel then hulks up a little bit. Looks like he's going for a half Boston Crab submission, but just as this gets locked in, Otis runs in from behind and takes him out for the DQ finish. Ezekiel wins the match. Shitty finish, decent match, kind of a funny segment. Nice to see Ezekiel get some action. Nice to see them work Alpha Academy in there, because I was afraid with all the tag unification shit that they would get buried. So I was happy with this. They advanced the Ezekiel stuff. Kevin Owens was fucking hilarious, and Chad Gable did his job. So not a better guy you can really put a new guy in there with than Chad Gable. So moving on, we get the RK-Bro versus Street Profits. I had no idea why this fucking match was even on here. We've seen the Street Profits lose to RK-Bro plenty of times, and they just lost to the Usos last week. They lost the match at Mania. They've lost 6 consecutive times to RK-Bro. If you don't count that one time RK-Bro took the L when they improvised the finish because Orton tweaked his elbow or his shoulder or whatever the hell it was. I understand they didn't face them last week, and this is some convoluted way that the Street Profits might try to claim that RK-Bro needs to keep an eye out for them. And they also weren't pinned in the Mania match, but we really don't need to see them lose for the umpteenth time if that's what's going to happen. I was thinking maybe that the result of this match would put them back into maybe an argument to be involved in the unification picture, or that the Usos would definitely get involved. As we see, the match folded out a little bit differently. Orton and Dawkins started this one out to change things up from the typical Riddle start. They're locking up and Orton gets the better of this with a shoulder block. Then Dawkins fights back. Orton gains control and tags in Riddle. They hit an assisted moonsault for 2. Ford hits a blind tag on the Dawkins and comes in. The Profits double team Riddle to gain control of the match. Riddle then takes out Montez Ford. They exchange some blows. Ford goes airborne and takes down Riddle, but he pops up and nails Ford with a kick. Orton hot tags in. He hits a lariat and a snap power slam on Dawkins. Riddle and Orton hit stereo draping DDTs. Orton tags in Riddle. Riddle starts hulking up for the RKO. And then we hear the Usos music, and I'm thinking, all right, here comes the Usos to interfere with this match, just like I thought. Riddle gets isolated after Orton gets drop kicked by Montez Ford. They set up their finisher, the Doomsday Device blockbuster on Riddle. They hit it, and they pin him for the 1, 2, 3. After the match, the Profits admit they cued the music for the Usos just to distract them and remind RK-Bro that they need to worry about the Street Profits too. Backstage, we see Edge and Damian Priest in a tape segment. I don't know where the hell they were. This looked like a fucking church or something. Edge is talking about how he's a fucking judge and he's judging people now. He's saying that his seeds for all this bullshit was laid 20 years ago in the Brood and the Ministry. Do people not realize that the Brood and the Ministry ended for a reason? Do people not realize this shit is fucking terrible? Maybe they do, because they didn't do it in the ring in front of the live audience like they did last week. But they have him here saying that that was just one thing, and that something much more powerful is within him, and it will be watered by the tears of everybody else. Edge explains they are doing this because he had to beg for a Mania match. Damian Priest didn't even have a Mania match, and his last Mania match was outshadowed by Bad Bunny. He says they don't care how they are viewed, and that they challenge Styles to a Judgment Day match. So Edge is challenging AJ Styles to a Judgment Day match. You know, I'm not really that disappointed with this, to see them run it back, because I was honestly a little bit underwhelmed with their performance at WrestleMania. Maybe I had too high hopes for that match. I don't know, but I thought it would be a lot better than it was. So eventually we see AJ Styles with Sarah Schreiber in a locker room. She asks him if he accepts. He says he does. Then as he gets into talking, the fucking lights go out. They turn purple. And then all of a sudden, Edge and Damian Priest are there. They appear out of nowhere. They beat the hell out of fucking AJ Styles, stand over him, mock the way that he's whimpering in pain. I can't stand this shit. I mean, listen, man. This fucking stupid magic shit and the lights going off is enough. They did it back when The Undertaker was around. The Undertaker's not here anymore. The Edge is not a new Undertaker. I can't believe they're doing this shit. Like I said, it didn't take up too much time. To me, it's not working. I hope they don't reel in any other superstars and make them involved in this nonsense, because to me, it's not working. I've had enough of it. I don't want to see it on TV. I'd rather see two guys who are already heated and already have reasons to start a match by throwing bombs at each other, build a story around something other than vampire magic. It's really fucking stupid, and I think Edge's acting in the segment was also terrible, and Priest was even worse. So next up we get the U.S. title match, Finn Balor versus Theory, not Austin Theory. They start the match off. Trade quick offense earlier, then Balor charges Theory into the corner, takes control and lands some chops in the other corner, then nails Theory with a knee to the face. Theory fights back and slows it down with a headlock. Finn hits a jawbreaker to get out, but Theory pulls him to ringside and hits a neck breaker to the floor. We go to a commercial break. Back from the break, Theory hits a rolling dropkick, grounds Finn inside the ring. He then hits a double stomp to the chest. Finn starts fighting back out of the corner and hits a sling blade and a flying shoulder. Theory reverses out of the corner into a spinning sidewalk slam for a near fall. Balor was selling his neck really well in this match, and Theory was wiping him out with a pair of lariats at this point. Balor counters the third lariat after Theory stalls to taunt him and hits a reverse DDT, then a knee to the ribs, sending Theory to the apron. Goes for a springboard suplex back into the ring, but Theory hangs him on the top rope. Theory then goes for another rolling basement dropkick, but Finn hits a pop-up powerbomb for a near fall. They exchange blows, and Theory takes a cheap shot to the neck. Finn fights back, rolls Theory through, hits a springboard stomp, then a sling blade, has Theory in the corner, does the double dropkick, goes for the coup de grace, but gets countered into a really beautiful looking springboard Spanish fly for a near fall. Then we see Theory go for the ATL. Balor slips out of that. He hits a reverse DDT. He then sends Theory out of the ring, nails him with a running suicide splash. Theory dodges the coup de grace after he gets thrown back into the ring, gets up, grabs Finn Balor, hits the ATL, gets the 1-2-3, and your new U.S. champion is Theory. He then starts celebrating. The whole fucking heel locker room comes out, basically. Mr. McMahon comes out. This was a good match. I'm not sure what they're going to do next with Finn, but I think he needs to help AJ Styles or something. He did a great job selling Theory's moves in this match. Theory is now the champion, so we should see some babyface challengers. Hopefully, he is a fighting champion, despite how happy Vince was when he came out for him. The McMahon ship helps make him a hated guy, so it's alright to me. Good match, good advancement in the story. That's all I really fucking care about. Backstage, we see Rollins with Kevin Patrick talking about who his opponent is, and he's laughing. Seth is really fucking hilarious. So then we get the double commitment ceremony, is what they were calling it. Originally, they were calling it a double wedding. Tozawa and Tamina are supposed to be joining each other, as well as Reggie and Dana. R-Truth is the officiant. They got a bunch of paid scrubs out there, along with Sasha Banks, Naomi, Los Lotharios, Nikki ASH. Dana has to correct R-Truth several times because he's calling her Dana Brooks when her name is Dana Brooke. The crowd wants him over and over again, and he says don't want him. He then asks Dana for her vows. She starts to recite her vows to Reggie while Truth is telling the crowd to simmer down. She says Reggie is her knight in shining armor. From the first time she showed his sacrifice for her, she knew he was a man of integrity. Although it took a while, she always knew they were meant to be. Through ups and downs, their love grew stronger. The whole time R-Truth is yelling at the crowd, commenting on everything she says. This was really fucking annoying. R-Truth calls himself your certified marriaging guy. Reggie then does his vows. He says, Danny, you're a dream come true. Through everything we've been through, trust issues, temptations, only made our love stronger. Then Tamina's asked for her vows, and she says what she said. Then Tozawa says, same. So basically they have no fucking vows. That part was actually kind of fucking funny. R-Truth asked for any objection. Tamina starts playing fucking musical chairs with everybody and switches Tozawa and Reggie, then switches herself and Tozawa. At one point has herself over with Dana Brooke, then eventually switches us all back. R-Truth is saying, with the power in my chest, I'm going to make this commitment official. Then he's saying, with the power in my vest, you can get your smooching on. Tells them to put their rings on. Reggie goes to kiss Dana and then rolls her up, pins her. He wins the 24/7 title. Then Tamina pins Reggie for the 24/7. Tozawa rolls her up for the 24/7 title. Then Dana hits a flying lariat off the top rope to pin Tozawa and win back the 24/7 title, and she escapes with R-Truth, and Dana Brooke is still the 24/7 champion. So, all that fucking bullshit to have the same champion coming out of it. Like I said before, nice to see a long-term story, albeit meaningless, in a fucking 24/7 segment, but nonetheless a long-term story here that should have paid off tonight, and instead it's ongoing, and it's a thing that God knows when it's going to end. God knows who else is going to get involved in it now that we see other people in the fucking ring, and Dana's still the champion. Nothing against Dana, but I thought that with the wedding and all this shit, that we were going to get new champions for more than 10 seconds at a time. Backstage, we see Omos challenging Lashley to an arm wrestling match. Again, I think this is a waste of time, but again, they may be protecting Lashley here. And then we get to our main event. Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, gets up, grabs Finn Balor, hits the ATL, gets the 1, 2, 3, and your new U.S. champion is Theory. He then starts celebrating. The whole fucking heel locker room comes out, basically. Mr. McMahon comes out. This was a good match. I'm not sure what they're going to do next with Finn, but I think he needs to help AJ Styles or something. He did a great job selling Theory's moves in this match. Theory is now the champion, so we should see some babyface challengers. Hopefully, he's a fighting champion, despite how happy Vince was when he came out for him. The McMahon ship helps make him a hated guy, so it's all right to me. Good match, good advancement in the story. That's all I really fucking care about. Backstage, we see Rollins with Kevin Patrick talking about who his opponent is, and he's laughing. Seth is really fucking hilarious. So then we get the double commitment ceremony, is what they were calling it. Originally, they were calling it a double wedding. Tozawa and Tamina are supposed to be joining each other, as well as Reggie and Dana. R-Truth is the officiant. They got a bunch of paid scrubs out there, along with Sasha Banks, Naomi, Los Lotharios, Nikki ASH. Dana has to correct R-Truth several times because he's calling her Dana Brooks when her name is Dana Brooke. The crowd wants him over and over again, and he says don't want him. He then asks Dana for her vows. She starts to recite her vows to Reggie while Truth is telling the crowd to simmer down. She says Reggie is her knight in shining armor. From the first time she showed his sacrifice for her, she knew he was a man of integrity. Although it took a while, she always knew they were meant to be. Through ups and downs, their love grew stronger. The whole time R-Truth is yelling at the crowd, commenting on everything she says. This was really fucking annoying. R-Truth calls himself your certified marriaging guy. Reggie then does his vows. He says, Danny, you're a dream come true. Through everything we've been through, trust issues, temptations, only made our love stronger. Then Tamina's asked for her vows, and she says what she said. Then Tozawa says, same. So basically they have no fucking vows. That part was actually kind of fucking funny. R-Truth asks for any objection. Tamina starts playing fucking musical chairs with everybody and switches to Zawa and Reggie, then switches herself into Zawa. At one point has herself over with Dana Brooke, then eventually switches us all back. R-Truth is saying, with the power in my chest, I'm going to make this commitment official. Then he's saying, with the power in my vest, you can get your smooching on. Tells them to put their rings on. Reggie goes to kiss Dana and then rolls her up, pins her. He wins the 24/7 title. Then Tamina pins Reggie for the 24/7. Tozawa rolls her up for the 24/7 title. Then Dana hits a flying lariat off the top rope to pin Tozawa and win back the 24/7 title, and she escapes with R-Truth, and Dana Brooke is still the 24/7 champion. So, all that fucking bullshit to have the same champion coming out of it. Like I said before, nice to see a long-term story, albeit meaningless, in a fucking 24/7 segment, but nonetheless a long-term story here that should have paid off tonight, and instead it's ongoing, and it's a thing that God knows when it's going to end. God knows who else is going to get involved in it now that we see other people in the fucking ring, and Dana's still the champion. Nothing against Dana, but I thought that with the wedding and all this shit, that we were going to get new champions for more than 10 seconds at a time. Backstage, we see Omos challenging Lashley to an arm wrestling match. Again, I think this is a waste of time, but again, they may be protecting Lashley here. And then we get to our main event, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes. So this was a really good match here with a really shitty ending. They start with a tie-up. Owens gets the better of him with a headlock applied to Cody, but Cody powers out. Then Owens locks on a waistlock, kicks Cody in the gut. Cody flips back on a back suplex attempt by Owens, but Owens then rings the arm of Cody, gets back in control with some chops and eventually some stomps. Cody counters a throw by Owens and sends him ringside. Cody then goes for a suicide dive but runs right into Owens' forearm. Now ringside, Kevin Owens hits a barricade bomb on Cody to get in control as we go to a break. Owens then hits a senton splash on Cody's back after the break for a 2 count. Owens is in control here. He nails a backbreaker, really working on the back here of Cody. Then he puts him in a position for a submission, adds some elbows to the face for good measure. Owens is working like a true heel here, talking shit after every spot he does. Then gets Cody on the ropes, starts hitting him with knees to the back. Cody starts to fight back. Owens then hits a snap suplex for 2, still working on the back. Cody starts to fight back again after reversing another suplex and turning it into a big stalling inverted suplex. Sets up for a crossroads, but Owens counters with a really nice looking DDT for a near fall. Cody really sold that DDT well and flipped right over. Nice looking. Owens goes up top for a senton bomb, but Cody gets his knees up on him. Owens then rolls out to ringside where Cody tackles him over the announce table. At this point, Rollins enters. Cody continues to work on Owens despite Seth being there. We go to another commercial. 2 breaks in this match. I think it's a little bit much. We had a break in the tag match earlier that I felt was longer than the actual women's tag match. That women's tag match seemed like it could have used a lot more time. The finish happened very fast. But anyway, they get back from the break. Cody's going for a superplex on Owens, and they're fighting each other at the top rope. Cody falls off, and Owen hits a frog splash for a very close near fall. Then he goes for a swanton right after that, gets another near fall. Owens is starting to get a little bit frustrated here. He sets up for a suplex, but Cody inside cradles him for 2. Then he counters a pop-up powerbomb by Owens with a Hurricane Rana. Takes him out with a lariat after that. Both men are now down. They get up. Cody runs right into a pop-up powerbomb by Owens. Owens goes for a cover and gets 2. Owens goes up top, but Cody gets the better of him. They struggle up top for a little bit. Owen hits a really nice looking fisherman suplex off the top rope. It looked devastating. Goes for cover. Cody gets his foot on the rope right at the last count. Owens gets frustrated and goes for an apron bomb. Cody counters that with a back body drop. Owens then lands on the apron. Seth walks over to pep talk Owens. Owens gets pissed off and says, "This is your match, not mine." Walks out. Gets counted out. There's your finish. Cody goes over. Be a count out. Really dumb finish to the match. No reason why they couldn't just go with a pinfall there. I don't understand it, but it definitely shows Owens' character. It is like his character to do something like this, so whatever. I think it's fucking stupid, though. Well-worked match all the way through. When you ruin it with like a finish like that, that's fine. All we know, really going into next week is we're going to get that Raw Women's title, Sonya Deville versus Bianca Belair. Glad to see them get it over with on TV. Defend that title on TV is nice, but also Sonya Deville being on Backlash should be a fucking waste. They need to get somebody better for Backlash. SmackDown, we got the Lumberjack match to look forward to, and the other half of Los Lotharios, Angel, is going to be taking on Madcap Moss. We also should see some interaction between RK-Bro and the Usos. I don't know what the fuck else they're going to do on Raw or what the hell else they got planned for Backlash. Like I said, we got a lot of time until Backlash, still about 4 weeks, so a lot of time to work things out. Tonight's Raw, pretty good. I would say 3.5 out of 5, maybe 4, but the finish to the Cody match was terrible. That was your main event, and they had some vampire magic shit, which brought it down. The 24/7 wedding being in the 10 o'clock hour and taking up half of the 10 o'clock hour was really fucking stupid. Other than that, I'm okay with a lot of the progressions they had tonight. I'm okay with a lot of the things that happened. They can't get everything done in one night, so it is what it is. We got a lot of things that change, a lot of twists and turns. We got Rhea Ripley heel now. We'll see how that turns out. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys tonight. I will have some extra news for you guys this week, and we're going to be having some bonus content soon. Please subscribe on all podcast platforms. Follow me on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. Shoot me an email whenever you want, Matt at BeyondTheMat.com. I'm out.